Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. The Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to Movie Film. This is episode 91, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zachy Hassan, and with me once more is my good friend Brian Hall.
Hello, Zachy. What's going on?
Well, a lot's going on. There's a huge movie out right now that I'm really excited to talk to you about.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. I cannot wait.
I've waited 14 years to find out what happened to Tula, or what the hell her name is. Is it Tula?
I don't know. But I do remember when I first moved to LA, that's when that movie, that was like the big, whoa, this $5 million independent film became this huge phenomenon. And I came out here and visited. I stayed with my friend's sister who was showing me around Los Angeles. And she's like, let's go see a movie. I was like, okay. And then we saw My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So in a weird way, it's like, oh, time is a flat circle kind of a moment right now.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I mean, the first one, the movie, in my opinion, is garbage. But however, the ratio of money in versus money out is the greatest in history.
It's kind of amazing it took this long.
Of all time. Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember it being any worse than any other sort of run-of-the-mill romantic comedy.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like offensively bad or anything. It was just, it was very sitcom-y.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like date movie or something, but you know what it is. I'll tell you what it is. At the time that movie came out, I used to work for a videography studio in Chicago, and it just so happened that their specialty was Greek weddings. So I was living my Big Fat Greek Wedding every weekend. Yeah, and I'm like, do I want to pay money to,
You're right.
No, thank you.
That makes complete sense.
But yeah, the movie cost something like $5 million, and it made like $370 million.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean, and that came from like a stage play or something in Chicago, right?
Was that the origin?
I'm pretty sure, and I think it was Tom Hanks's wife, Rita Wilson.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think they both produced it, but I believe it was like kind of her thing. And they, wanted to turn it into a movie, and it became what it became.
Well, it's always nice when somebody like Tom Hanks gets to make a lot of money on a film, because you just, you want to see the little guy triumph every once in a while.
Yeah, well, it was great. It was like all the offshoots too, because that eventually became a television show.
Yeah.
And speaking of movies that have become television shows, Zachy.
Wow.
Guess what I've been watching recently? I started the series Fargo.
Oh, okay. Starring Martin Freeman.
Yeah. And I'm watching season 1. I guess season 2 may have just ended, but I just started watching season 1, which is Billy Bob Thornton, Martin Freeman, and Allison Tolman, who I was not familiar with at first, but holy crap, like, she steals the show on this thing. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay. I like the Coens. I don't like adore the Coens like a lot of people do. And Fargo was a movie I remember seeing when it first came out, and I was like 16 or 17 or something. And I remember like being like impressed with it, but I don't feel like I took it with me, if you know what I mean. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, that was an interesting, cold kind of black comedy kind of thing. And, so I didn't really know if this was going to be for me, but man, I was sucked in straight from the pilot. Like, this is a really, speaking, we've talked about this before. There's certain shows we're in like the golden age of television currently right now, right? I mean, like, TV is rivaling movies right now.
Sure.
Or a second golden age, if you want to call it that. And so I guess I expect a lot from a television show now. And when I watch a show like 11/22/63, and it's, maybe this is a harsh word for it, but I found it pretty mediocre.
Wow.
And
that's rough.
Yeah. And I was a huge fan of the book.
How do you feel, JJ? You lost Brian.
Well, it's funny. I read an interview with him, and he was talking about, Bad Robot and all their projects. And he was talking about going away working on Star Wars, that he underestimated how much things could suffer while he was away. And he said, I think TV might have suffered a bit. And I was like,
wow.
Really?
That's so. Is that
Yeah.
as close as we'll get to an acknowledgement that he's disappointed in it too?
I don't know. I don't know. There could be things they're developing right now. Who knows? But that show. You look at something, and I was telling my brother this. I watched Better Call Saul, the spinoff of Breaking Bad, and the first season I watched it just because it was the spinoff of Breaking Bad. And about halfway through the season, I was like, "This is pretty good. This is pretty good." But then eventually, somewhere, it found its footing. It found its voice, its own tempo. It became its own thing, and it was just great. So season 2, I was a little nervous because I was only say like 10 episodes or whatever it was, and I was like, "Am I going to get into this again?" And I missed 2 weeks in a row recently, and I watched them back to, and I would just floored at the quality of storytelling and of filmmaking. And I told my brother, because he's not watching it, I was trying to convince him to watch it. I was like, this show just churns out masterpieces like that. That's what you're supposed to do. Another episode, here's something brilliant. I mean, we don't know how else to do it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
completely masterful. Better Call Saul. Like, they just know exactly what they want to be, and they're doing it to perfection. And so, between that and between, the regular players, Game of Thrones, whatever, everything being a little bit more cinematic and Mad Men, blah, blah. Like, Fargo, it completely stands next to those, in my opinion, because in terms of the storytelling, where it actually lets itself breathe, it actually lets its characters have moments to themselves where it's you get moments with them alone that inform the bigger moments that come later, which I think always makes for richer storytelling. And then also just in terms of like how cinematic it is, just it's not pretentious and it's not showy, it's just stylized. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm about halfway through season 1, and I'm a pretty big fan of it so far. I'll probably watch 1 or 2 after this. So
how would you say it compares to the film?
Well, from what I remember of it, again, I mean, it's been probably 20 years, literally,
Sure.
I think, since I've seen it.
Yeah.
It feels of a piece of it, to be honest. Like, it feels pretty, like it's not imitating. That's the biggest compliment I can give it, is it doesn't feel like it's imitating. It feels like a perfect extension of it.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I don't mean to be like falling all over myself for it. I think I'm starting to get like a little hyperbolic about it, but like it's just
a solid show.
It's a solid show, and I guess I'm just excited to find another solid show to get into.
Gotcha.
Right?
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I was going to say I've been looking for a show, but that's not actually even true, because I don't have time for a show. For me, it's easier to watch movies.
Yeah.
Because it's like a one-off commitment. It's self-contained. It's like you go, you do it, but it's like, because I'm trying to make my way through the second season of Daredevil, and that's been very good. But again, it's just and I know you weren't blown away by the first season. I would still recommend giving this a shot. I think they've done some really interesting stuff, but that's one of those shows where my wife and we don't have many shows that we watch together. Usually she has her shows and so this is like, no, we're going to watch it together. But it's like, by the time the night is free and clear, the kids are asleep, like one of us is falling asleep.
Sure,
So,
of course.
So television watching is takes a lot of planning, I've found.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Netflix programming, I watched Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
Another good segue, by the way, Brian. Kudos.
Thank you. I'm learning from you.
The pupil is now the student. Wait, that's not right.
That means I have to destroy you. Are you a Pee-wee fan?
I'm not a Pee-wee fan.
Yeah, that's a good, I'll buy that. I was never like super into the TV show, not for any reason. Just didn't really watch it, but I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, it's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Right.
And so I was had a little bit of trepidation going into this, because if I've learned anything, it's that anytime you Dumb and Dumber 2, you try to take these comedies that are maybe past their expiration date and try to return, they don't really work out so hot. But I found it like a perfectly nice Netflix movie.
Sure.
Right. So like Pee-wee was still really fun. He's older, but he's doing his thing. And it after, like, it didn't have as much it wasn't as sharp, let's say, as maybe the first one. But it was cute. It was a cute the old 90-minute diversion. So I found it fun. Like, I think if people like Pee-wee and they're just looking for a little more Pee-wee, they're going to enjoy it. But I don't think it's going to convert anyone.
Okay. So it's a net neutral on Pee-wee. What is it? Pee-wee? I don't even know what it's called. What is it?
It's called Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
Big Holiday. There you go. Well, I have to say, I mean, Paul Rubens is like ageless.
Even like in close-ups in HD, you're like, wow, this guy's like 60 some years old. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he looks the same as he did as Pee-wee, however many years ago, right? When's the last time he played Pee-wee on screen? It was a Big Top Pee-wee, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, aside from like that HBO special he had, but yeah.
Right. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. Well, moving on from that, we do have a listener letter. Real briefly, I wanted to bring up, and this is a comment that was left for us on Facebook by Mark Rissman, who listened to our Superman commentary track, which we did last week, which was a lot of fun, by the way, and I appreciate all the kind words that people have sent. A lot of people checked it out because they're fans of the film, and of course, I love doing the commentaries. I know, Brian, you do too, so it's definitely nice to get some feedback on that. But Mark said, your Superman the movie audio commentary is getting me through my workday. Only downside, I could use an audio commentary of Superman 2 from you guys to get me through the rest. Well, we will not be doing a Superman 2 commentary, but we will be doing some kind of superhero commentary down the line, right? I would think.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. It might be fun one of these days, not with Superman, but with something else, to actually go through and do a whole series of commentaries. You know what I mean?
Like for like a trilogy or something?
Yeah, go through the whole thing. Because usually what we do is we pick one movie and we kind of make that that's our statement on the franchise.
Yeah.
Might be kind of fun to one of these. I mean, I don't know what we would do, but something. One of these things.
Yeah.
One of these.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I love doing it.
Yeah. They're fun to do, and hopefully they're fun for people to listen to. And by the way, I want to mention this, because when we were doing the Superman commentary, so it's worth pointing out that I have the bladder control of either an old man or a small child. But regardless, we're doing the commentary, and it's not like our regular show where I can be like, hey, let's hold on a second because I got to pee, because it's synced to the movie. So I'm like, I needed to pee. Now, luckily, my wife was sitting there, and she was game enough to jump in and just jump on the call, which is very nice of her to do that. But more importantly, I'm consistently in awe of Brian's ability to, without missing a beat. I could have been like, hey, Brian, I have a gorilla here who's going to get on the call with you. And Brian didn't miss a step, because he's just like, so, hey, tell me about blah, blah, blah. And he just rolled with it. And
thanks.
I'm constantly amazed by your ability to do that, to roll with whatever changes or whatever happens. I think that's an impressive skill.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It was funny. I was really impressed. I thought Amina was going to need a minute to calibrate, just sort of be like, okay, so what are we doing? Where are we at? She jumped right in. I mean, she didn't make it difficult.
She's pretty awesome too. Yeah. But enough about her. Let's talk about you. But yeah, so that was a fun experience. And again, it was the timing couldn't have been better as far as watching that film, because I think it primed me mentally for obviously what we'll be talking about in just a little bit. Mm-hmm. Another, not so much a letter, but this is a review on iTunes, and I wanted to bring this up because I love the fact that this actually happened a couple episodes ago. I want to say it was our Deadpool episode. I might be wrong about that, but I was like, just go to iTunes. You don't have to write a lot. Just write, I love it. And that's all you have to write. And somebody actually did that. So Derek Burke wrote, I love it. I love it. And so thank you, Derek, I love that Derek Burke wrote, I love it. I think that's awesome. So thank you for that, Derek. And really, really briefly, do have some headlines to discuss. Really just one big headline I wanted to mention this. The sad and untimely and kind of shocking passing of legendary comedian Gary Shandling, star of It's Gary Shandling's Show, The Larry Sanders Show. One of the most omnipresent comedians of our childhood, right? I mean, that's probably a fair statement, absolutely. Right?
Definitely.
And I
Definitely.
mean, it's just not one of those guys who you expect to read about him having passed away.
Mm-mm.
You know,
No,
and
yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean, it's I'm still sort of just trying to come to terms with that. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say this story doesn't translate well over audio, but one of my first when I was interning at 20th Century Fox, I was driving up, and this is when still fresh all his hadn't seen a lot of celebrities, and I was driving up to the gate, and the car in front of me was there for a really long time, so I'm waiting like I don't know what's going on, and then Gary Shandling gets out. And he gives me this look, and anyone who knows what he looks like knows exactly the face I'm making. But he kind of gets out and looks at me like that. Sorry, hold on. And like he goes into his trunk, and his wallet needed his ID. So he like holds up his wallet and shows it to me. He goes, "Yeah, sorry." Like goes back in his car, and they let him through the gate. And I remember thinking like, "Holy crap, that was Gary Shandling."
That's so random.
So yeah, I think about that all the time whenever I drive over to Fox or whatnot. So yeah, so weird.
I mean,
Was he 60?
He was 66, and I mean, the Larry Sanders Show doesn't feel like that long ago, but you realize it ended about 20 years ago almost.
Wow, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you watched the Larry Sanders Show growing up, but that was one of those things that it was like a privilege to be able to watch an episode or two, because that was on HBO. We didn't have HBO when I was a kid.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it really, like, it's one of those, you realize when you watch it just how much of modern comedy has its roots in what they did on that show.
Right. Right.
And I wanted to share
the show within the show.
The show within it, just the meta aspect of it, the not having a laugh track, and just really, I mean, it's certainly the progenitor to shows like 30 Rock and things like that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted to share a remembrance that was written by Alan Spencer. And Alan Spencer is a writer-producer he created the series Sledgehammer, who, if you remember that show from the 80s, and very funny guy. But Gary Shandling was a big influence on him. So this is something he wrote. He says, when Marty Feldman died from a massive heart attack in Mexico, I was distraught. As a young person, it was hard to process the suddenness of Marty's passage, compounded by the fact he was a public figure with newscasters offering soulless eulogies in between sports and weather. One of the first persons to call me was Gary Shandling, whom many have cited in their remembrances as an empathetic person. Gary had lots of life experience, including personal tragedies, and he was genuinely concerned how I was coping. Gary offered sage advice. He said, it should be my goal to utilize everything I had learned from Marty about comedy and pass that along to others, as well as emulate his best qualities as a person. 34 years later, Gary is now gone. His abrupt death similar to Marty's, and I'm offering the same advice to others Gary imparted to me. Gary's greatness as a comedian was matched by his immense quality as a person. He had compassion for people. While I wish he were still around, we were all lucky to have him. And I just thought that was a nice...
yeah, very nice.
Very thoughtful, And I mean, ultimately, obviously, we want our legacy to be our work, but we also want our legacy to be the kind of person we were,
Right.
But moving on from that, we've got a big spoiler discussion coming up in this episode, and I'm talking, of course, about Batman v Superman, which just opened this past weekend and has obliterated the March opening record. It certainly did very well. Why don't we play some of the audio from the trailer, and then we can offer our non-spoiler thoughts.
Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. People living in fear. He thinks he's above the law.
The Daily Planet criticizing those who think they're above the law is a little hypocritical, wouldn't you say? Considering every time your hero saves a cat out of a tree, you read a puff piece editorial about an alien who could burn the whole place down.
Most of the world doesn't share your opinion, Mr. Wayne.
Maybe it's the Gotham City in me. We just have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
Boys, Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. I love it. I love bringing people together. How are we?
Lex?
Hi, hello, Lex. It is a pleasure. Ow, wow, that is a good grip. You should not pick a fight with this person.
So you just heard some of the audio of Batman, played by Ben Affleck, and Superman, played by Henry Cavill, whispering sweet nothings to each other while they're pummeling pummeling the daylight out of each other. Come on, they're in love. We know it. It's basically a rom-com. It's a meet cute,
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so now honestly, so I saw this about a week ago as we're recording this, and from the moment it ended, I was like, I cannot wait for Brian to see this because I desperately need to talk to him about this. And folks, those of you who are longtime listeners know Brian and I don't discuss our reactions with each other until we record. So I genuinely have no idea what Brian is about to say about Batman v Superman.
It's funny because I have an inkling because I have seen a little bit of your online presence.
So Brian, so this is a little bit lopsided because Brian does a great poker face. And I don't normally do this. This time I was like texting him like, so what do you agree with this review, Brian? You know, I'm trying to feel him out.
Yeah.
Now Brian you've read my review, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian's read my review and he's seen me discuss this at length on Facebook. So there's no secret about how I feel, but I have no idea what Brian thought of this. So my reaction first, I was, as soon as it ended, I was like, I hated this movie.
I was going to say the H word. Yeah.
I know.
I was like, wow.
Doesn't come up often. Not from me. That was my initial reaction. I think that reaction has softened to the extent that now I'm just actively apathetic about the movie. But I certainly have not. The needle has not tipped over into liking it. I think this is just rife with numerous mistakes. And there's my reaction. So Brian, what'd you think?
This is such a hard movie for me to like explain how I feel about it. So I feel like I do this a lot too. Whenever it's like, so Brian, what'd you think? It's like everyone could just quote me, go, I ...
Yeah.
And I need the minute to collect my thoughts.
Because it's not like you knew we were going to talk about this or anything like that.
Right. No, I mean, but this is such like a complicated movie for me to explain. And I've talked about it with a lot of people. This is not the Batman versus Superman I wanted.
Okay.
That's how I feel. And is it the worst thing ever? No, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. And I've seen it twice. And I didn't plan on seeing it twice. It just worked out that way, seeing it with two different groups of people. And the first night I saw it, here's the thing. You got Nolan, Christopher Nolan takes Batman. And, you know, you look at the first like 40 minutes of Batman Begins or whatever it is. And it's like Bruce Wayne is a real human being. Right. And he goes through this crazy journey to become Batman that we finally get to follow him on and see like what he endures and what he goes through and what the psychology is behind him. And, you know, it's so rich what they did with Batman in those movies. You look at The Dark Knight and you got that interrogation scene with Batman and the Joker. And, you know, this is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, you know, and all these sorts of, I mean, the philosophy behind that. And it's not boring. It's like fascinating, right? So when you have a movie where you pit Batman versus Superman, I mean, they both are good guys, but they just have different ideologies, right? And I'm not like the most avid comic book reader like you are. And you, over the years, have like always gotten me like what you feel are the best Batman stories and the best Superman stories and the best Batman and Superman stories. And what I've really loved about Batman and Superman is their relationship is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like they don't see eye to eye all the time, even though they're friends. And they have different, they have to stop each other sometimes from doing things that they don't think the other person should do. So that's what I was looking forward to going into this movie. Yes, I should have known better because this is... I should have just known better because, you know, Zack Snyder, I don't think he's the worst filmmaker in the world. Some people are saying he's like this awful human being. I don't think he's an awful human being. I certainly don't even think he's an awful filmmaker. I just feel like his sensibilities are blunt, right? So he can make a movie like 300 and it'll kick all sorts of ass, right? Because that's what he's really good at. But I think what this movie really needed was a more insightful examination of these two guys. And I know people are like, oh, you wanted a boring movie? Like, not at all. Like with this movie, and we'll get to this in spoilers, but basically, I mean, it's no spoiler that Batman and Superman fight in this movie, right? But it wasn't for the reasons I thought at all.
Right.
And I really hated the reasons that they fought in this movie. I thought it was stupid.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And I would say like the first hour of this movie, I was like, okay. Like, yeah, all right. But then like the second hour or 90 minutes or whatever it is, it just.
And bear in mind, this is a 2.5 hour, ordeal by the end.
Yeah, we can get more into this in spoilers, I guess, because I'm starting to steer into that. But I didn't like the reason that they were pitted against each other. But then also, I think one of the things you talked about in your review that I thought was really interesting was how dark and grim and violent this movie is.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. We talked about this before because being an adult myself, like I don't think about these things so much anymore. And I just take what's put in front of me and I just, whatever. But it's like, if I had kids, I feel like I should be able to take kids to a Superman movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I mean, I know this is sort of like neither here nor there. This is just sort of a personal opinion thing, but I did find some of the violence in this really violent, like surprisingly violent, like guns in people's faces.
Yeah.
And going off violent. It was just like, whoa, wow, okay, so here's where we are. You know what I mean?
This is 2016.
Yeah, and it just. So when I walked out of it, I had my opinions on it, but then I talked to people who really loved it. And so I wanted to know why. And when they were explaining it to me, I was like, oh, okay. And I actually, a good friend of ours, he said, it just felt like a Transformers movie.
Right. Which I've heard that comparison about 18 times in the last 4 days.
And it's funny because I was like, you know what? When you put it that way, it's like, okay. Like I get that. I totally get that. But the thing is I think Batman and Superman deserve better than a Transformers movie.
That's right. That's exactly the problem here is that we're talking about a legacy that includes the Richard Donner Superman and, Batman Begins and the Dark, you know what I mean? Like we have the expectation, right. Whereas Transformers, we have 4 movies that have basically established the parameters of what to expect from that franchise. Mm-hmm. So the only question is, well, how well does it meet the, does it hit the high end or the low end of that range?
Exactly. For what's come before it, like if you're, yeah, exactly. Yes. I don't even need to say again what you just said. So,
shall we get into it?
I was just gonna say, would I recommend it? Well, yeah, sure. I mean, because it's a big spectacle movie and it's got characters that you like, but just know that you're going into something that isn't going to, achieve what has come before it. Yeah. This is just Batman. This is like a kid with 2 action figures bumping them into each other on the playground.
All right, let's talk some spoilers. So let's do this, Brian. Let's count down to the spoilers. Okay, so I strongly disliked this movie, and I disliked it. Bear in mind, I mean, we've talked about this on this show before. I did not dislike Man of Steel. Quite the opposite. I liked it quite a bit, and I've defended it for the past 3 years. And so watching this movie was like a slap in the face to me, having defended Man of Steel all these years.
It's funny because I rewatched Man of Steel building up to this.
Yeah.
And I like Man of Steel too. And I have liked Man of Steel. And as I was watching it again, I was like, this is a really good movie. Like, why do I have any negative thoughts at all towards this? And then it's just kind of toward the end, it goes a little bit off the rails, but like it is a good movie. And when I watched this movie, I thought it made Man of Steel look like a masterpiece.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
However, well, you know what it is, Brian? It's this film to me amplifies those areas that were problematic for me about Man of Steel. And
absolutely
not just like the super destructo ending, which is like, hey, you thought that was nuts? Hey, we're gonna like dial that up by 8, because what the hell, right?
Mhm.
But even like the character stuff, the questionable character stuff, to me, this is a movie where essentially Warner Brothers is saying, hey, everybody who's ever thought that Superman is lame for like decades, you're right. We totally agree with you, and you're right. Like that's what it felt like to me as a Superman fan, because this is a movie that's basically saying, yeah, Superman sucks.
So okay, explain it to me. Like what I have my own personal thoughts. There was something in this movie that I actively was like, nope. Like I hate that.
So let me.
So I'm curious what your
let me tell you the exact moment where the movie lost me and never got me back. Okay. We have so the whole film is building up to this like congressional hearing, and you've seen it in the ads where Holly Hunter is like the senator, and she wants Superman to testify, and then Scoot McNairy plays this former Wayne employee who lost his legs right during the attack on Metropolis. And he's like, I want Superman to face me. So always Superman going to show up. So Superman shows up. Now, bear in mind, the whole movie, there have been characters talking around Superman. So he exists not as a character, but as a concept.
Okay, sure.
Right? We get these scenes. Like basically Henry Cavill's eyebrow is knitted the entire film. It's just, he has that angsty, like, it's so hard being Superman. And you see him like, he's like performing, he's like, he has to like pull this boat ashore, and he's like, rescuing people. I mean, it's like, oh, it sucks to be Superman,
Dude, you are absolutely, I felt that without being able to articulate it, but he looks so sorrowful when he's saving that boat.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. Like
it's like the trials of somebody who's being punished by the gods or something,
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so basically, and of course, like up until then, this is like an hour and a half into the movie, right? We've gotten Batman being like, oh, he's, we don't always deal, and Lex Luthor's being whatever, and we'll get into all these characters.
Yeah.
So Superman shows up, and I'm thinking, okay, so this is the moment in the film where we justify, like narratively, we're at the point where we justify Superman's presence in this universe, right? He'll either give like a Mr. Smith kind of speech, or he'll like do some heroism, right? And so he's there, he's about to talk, and then like turns, like Holly Hunter realizes that it's all a trap, and there's like a bomb in Scoot McNairy's wheelchair. So the bomb goes off, okay? The friggin' Capitol has exploded. Okay? Yeah. And there's like just fire, and it's just like a ball of fire, and everything clears, and there's Superman standing there, and of course he's all angsty looking, and I'm like, oh, it's a shame there was nobody there with super speed who could have
or X-ray vision.
Yeah. So in other words, we have the key moment for Superman to validate his existence, and he doesn't say anything eloquent, and B, he doesn't do anything effective.
Right.
So it literally at that exact, and not just that, it's horrifying. This is a horrible terrorist act.
Yeah. That
Superman is in the middle of. So literally that was the exact moment where I was like, F you, you effing horrible movie. Right. And then it continues, because later on in the day, it's like, it's all over the news, and, oh, what happened, and was Superman involved, whatever. There's no reason to think Superman was involved, but somehow he's involved. And
I never understood that.
And it makes no sense. And so this is in Washington, right? So Lois Lane like goes out to the terrace of like her hotel room, and there's Superman standing there, and he's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, and blah, blah, blah. Now, and while he's saying this, you can hear ambulances.
Yes.
Like, and I'm like, what are you doing here, dude? Go, what is going on in this movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah. They don't like Lois.
Yeah, they don't like, oh, Superman is just the dream of a farmer, and like this whole, like, it's this weird angsty, like embarrassed of being Superman portrayal of Superman. And then adding to all of this, we have this scene where Clark goes off on this vision quest, and he has a vision of his foster father, right? Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. And in my head, I'm like, oh, sweet, Kevin Costner, it's awesome. Because you and I talked before about how perfect that casting is.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, so this is where Jonathan like gives his son the validation, or the whatever. And he's like, I tried to be a hero when I was a kid, and I ended up killing a bunch of horses, and still hear those horses.
It's
Being
like
a hero
making
sucks.
this up. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I'm watching this. I'm not even angry. I'm like, what is happening in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't understand any of this. So this is my fundamental flaw with how Superman is portrayed. Now let's talk about the film as a whole and all the goofy, idiotic narrative things it does. Like, to me, having Metropolis and Gotham City next to each other, like they're Naperville and Aurora, right? I mean, does that make any sense to you?
I didn't really think a whole lot about it, even though, yeah, I mean, if they're that close, and why doesn't Superman take care of both? You know what I mean? Like, it's,
right.
I didn't think a whole lot about that.
So the film starts, worth pointing out, I think the opening sequence is pretty awesome.
Great.
Not so much seeing the Waynes killed again. We don't need that, but just the destruction of Metropolis through Bruce Wayne's point of view. I think it's great.
Yeah, just as long as we're talking about the Waynes getting killed, there was one shot where the thug puts the gun, like pulls the pearls back from Martha's neck, and you see the pearls like going outward, and the barrel of the gun like pointed at you at the screen.
Yeah,
and then it's just like bang.
Yeah,
and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, it's funny because literally, as I watched it, I was like, if it's good, I'll take my oldest son. He's 9, and then that shot happens, no pun intended, and I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm not bringing my son to this. Like,
I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, it just felt so. I don't know.
Can we agree that we don't need to see the Waynes get killed any more than we need to see Uncle Ben getting killed again?
Yeah, I saw some review where it said like it began with the ritual sacrifice of the Waynes, before we could begin yet another Batman tale.
That's hilarious. And it's kind of true, because really Batman Begins should be the final statement on that particular sequence,
Yeah. But then we cut back to the events of the end of Man of Steel from Bruce Wayne's point of view, as he's showing up as Zod and Superman are fighting in the sky and inadvertently knocking buildings over.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, whether that was the plan all along or not, I thought that was a really, really effective way to show Batman's view of Superman. Like, he's this really dangerous being that has to be contained.
Yeah. So that scene, number one, establishes that Bruce Wayne is who he is. He's a heroic guy, even outside of his costume. And then it also, like, when he glares skyward, we get the sense of the anger that he feels over what's happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to 18 months later, and Batman has never met Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, you're telling me in 18 months and almost 2 years after this happens, Batman doesn't immediately track down Superman? The world's greatest detective doesn't immediately try to figure out who he is and feel him out? Like, why are we letting this 18 months go by? And it's a narrative leap that doesn't need to exist, by the way.
Right.
That 18, there's no necessity of that, right?
Right. Does that go straight to the Africa moment?
Right, which is 2 years later, right?
Right.
So in other words, Bruce Wayne has been like percolating for 2 years.
Right.
And that to me is just it doesn't speak well to the character, especially when we get up to what ends up pitting him and Superman against each other.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was more to give time for Superman to be like a worldwide figure for people to have an opinion on.
Sure.
But I agree, it doesn't work all the way around. But we should talk about this moment now, which
there's honestly, I'm having a real hard time like keeping track of our conversation, because there's so many tendrils of plot in this movie. that are all very
Yeah.
haphazardly. I mean, this is the problem I had, is that there's no logical sequence from scene to scene. It's just a bunch of stuff happens.
I mean, well, I've seen it twice. I have the benefit of that, so I'm
Okay.
remembering it pretty well. But what when you're watching it unfold for the first time, you don't know exactly what's going on. But then when you watch it a second time, you know exactly what's going on. You start to notice more of the holes. And I thought this was an enormous hole. Was you have Lois Lane in somewhere in Africa talking to some sort of terrorist or whatever, and there are these like mercenaries who are there, and they pull out their guns and they start shooting people dead.
Yeah.
And you learn later that they were hired by Lex Luthor to make it look like Superman killed those guys.
Yeah.
Like Superman carried a gun
Right.
to Africa
Right.
and
Right.
shot a bunch of dudes. Like,
Well, and by the way,
It makes no
related to
sense.
that, well, in conjunction with that sequence, you know who the photographer is who has the
yes.
tracking
Oh, dude,
device?
I knew you were gonna be mad.
You
when
know,
I read that.
You know, it's funny. I'm not even mad about this. I'm just like, of course they did this, right? And
Well,
and
we
so-
should do it.
Yeah, so it's essentially the photographer that's working with Lois Lane is actually a CIA agent who has like a tracking device in his camera. So once these terrorists find that tracking device, they shoot this guy in the head. And who is he? Well, if you watch the end credits, he's Jimmy Olsen. You know, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter Jimmy Olsen with the little signal watch that he uses to call Superman his best friend. And they did this because Zack Snyder was like, you know, we weren't planning to use Jimmy Olsen, so we thought it'd be a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
quote. That's quote.
I'm not. Yeah, look it up. And
It would
I'm
be
like,
a fun thing to do. Blow Jimmy Olsen's face off.
and you know, if ever there was a window into Zack Snyder's filmmaking worldview, it is that.
Yeah.
And I literally, I mean, I found that in and of itself so insightful.
Yeah.
Because it just crystallized for me. And I'm not sitting here like, oh, how dare you do that to Jimmy? I don't care that much, except in terms of what it tells us about his philosophy as it pertains to this universe, which is break the toys, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
But,
go
you know
on,
what?
sorry.
No. So, but the first half I thought had some really good things going for it. Like one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when Bruce Wayne, he's like, okay, well, I want to get into Lex Luthor's files. I need to go break into his place. And Alfred's like, you've been invited to the party. So they go to Lex Luthor's, and Bruce Wayne is there. Clark Kent is there. And they have this little, back and forth talking about, Batman questions Superman's integrity and Superman questions Batman's integrity. And, I always love, even though they're not villains, but remember in Heat, where Pacino and De Niro like sit at the table in the middle of the movie. Like I love when the people sit at the table in the middle of the movie that
Right.
are going to square off later. I love those scenes.
Right.
So that was one of my favorite scenes. And what was great about it too is because Alfred is transmitting into Bruce Wayne's, like an earpiece in Bruce Wayne's ear.
Right.
Of course, Superman can hear it. And so when he hears what's going on, this little covert mission Bruce Wayne's got going on, I was like, I love this. This
Sure.
is what, you know what I mean? Superman's using his powers, but he's undercover. They don't know who the other person is. And then, throw into the mix, you got Wonder Woman in the room also, who is also after what's on Luthor's hard drive. But that to me, I just wanted more of that. You know what I mean? Like, them using their abilities, even though Bruce Wayne's abilities are not on fine display here. Like basically goes like completely, doesn't even sneak, just like walks right into the server room, gets caught. It's like, oh, I was looking for the bathroom. Like, pulls that
Right.
old chestnut. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I did love how that whole moment ended because Clark was on to him, or Superman. I don't know how to refer to him. He's in Clark Kent regalia. But then he sees on a television in the kitchen that there is, some sort of fire going on at a Day of the Dead festival in Mexico. And he's just like, okay, like I got to abandon what I'm doing here. And my brother and I actually looked at each other in the theater during that moment. We're like, yeah, Superman. You know what I mean? He's like,
And then he
people-
goes off to the Day of the Dead and his eyebrows are knitted. And
I didn't like his whole look
Yeah,
that he had, but I did love that image of him pulling the guy out of the fire or the kid or whatever it was, and all the people reaching out to him. I wish he had looked a little more like happy about what had just happened. But I did enjoy that moment. I wish there had been
you know
more
what's funny
Superman
in
moments.
response to that, a friend of mine who lives in Mexico posted this on Facebook. He said, "To my American friends, we really don't celebrate the Day of the Dead like some kind of folkloric Halloween. Thanks."
That's really funny.
And I mean, this is the problem, right? I mean, Superman exists in the film as a concept and not a character.
Sure.
And and I mean, this, if you remember, we've joked about this movie I'm like, this movie should be called Batman versus Superman.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is a little bit, right? Because as a showcase for the new Batman, you know what? I have some issues with how, like, some of the stuff they have Batman doing, but as a character, sign me up. You want a new solo franchise for Batman? I'm in. Ben Affleck knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I thought Gal Gadot was pretty good, even though we saw like 90% of her performance in the trailers, basically.
Yeah, everyone was raving about how good she was, and I was like, she was, and I'm saying nothing bad against her because I thought she was great, and every moment she was on the screen, she owned it, completely owned it. But like, I feel like when she's fighting Doomsday at the end, we never really get to see her do anything.
Yeah.
Like, she just swiped her sword at him and grimaced, and then we cut to something else. And then all of a sudden we cut to her in the middle of her pulling on it, with her lasso. And then we cut away. And I was like, can we just see her do something? Like, I want to see her like corner him and then throw the lasso around, then pull. And then, you know what I mean? Like, I blame that on editing, not on anything to do with her.
Right.
But it did make me look forward to seeing her story. I think that's
yeah, I'm definitely down with that.
Yeah.
We're talking about the trailer. I mean, this was the complaint that we had. It was like, oh man, it feels like they're giving away the store in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, well, maybe they're holding some surprises in. No, they basically give away the store in the trailer.
Yeah, they literally are. Well,
right.
Okay, so let's get to the main event then, right? The fight.
Yeah.
So,
and you'll note, by the way, we haven't even talked about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Do you want to do that first? We can.
Yeah. Well, what'd you think of him?
I was willing to give him a shot because I got it. I knew they were going for a completely different take on him that sort of makes sense in this day and age. The sort of punky 28-year-old billionaire brat or something. And so I went into it. First hour, again, he was kind of annoying, but I was willing to go with what they were trying to do. But then it felt like, and I know movies are shot out of order, so who knows how this works. But as the movie went on, he seemed to get more and more
sort of manic.
Yeah, and twitchy. And I don't know if there was a reason to it. I don't know what it was all about. And it felt a little forced. And I like Jesse Eisenberg, for the most part. But like, it felt like a guy impersonating someone else.
What's kind of interesting about Jesse Eisenberg is that we were talking about Jimmy Olsen. They approached him originally to play Jimmy Olsen. Do you know this?
I just read that today.
Yeah, and so the idea was we'll have like a well-known person playing Jimmy Olsen, and then we'll kill him off, and haha, that's hilarious. I'm Zack Snyder. That's hilarious, And then they were like, oh, he's such a quirky, interesting dude. Let's make him Lex Luthor. Which to me says they had no idea about what the character was going to be like if they were so sort of willy-nilly about it.
Well, because it was originally going to be Bryan Cranston, right?
I don't know if it was going to be or if he was the name that they were like the type of persona that they were thinking about. Because Snyder addressed that, but I don't think he was like specifically like, oh, we wanted him to do it, right? I think Bryan Cranston would have been great, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem here is that this is essentially a rivalry, right, between Lex Luthor and Superman that exists because there's supposed to be a rivalry between Lex Luthor and Superman.
It's very confusing.
There's nothing in the
Like,
film.
motivation.
Yeah, there is no motivation. I mean, there's nothing in the film that tells us why he should specifically have such a mad-on for Superman.
It's funny because when he's first introduced, I thought it made sense. Like he's hunting down kryptonite, and he explains it as, it's for protection against potential threat from other people like him should they ever come, right? Totally makes sense. Got it. But then it becomes weird because then Lex starts like goading Batman to try to kill Superman and even aiding him by giving him the kryptonite and luring Superman out and he tries to turn Superman on Batman. Like he pits them against each other. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it makes no sense, and it makes Batman look like an idiot.
It makes Batman look like an idiot, and it makes Superman act extremely out of character. So,
it actually Superman acts entirely in character for this glum version of Superman.
Right. Well, that was the moment that I hated for Superman, was because what happens is Lex Luthor kidnaps Superman's mother, Martha Kent, and he goes, "If you want your mother to live, you have to kill Batman." And he goes, "Okay." Like, what? And then he says to Lois too, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something like, "Well, I guess every good person's got to turn bad eventually."
No, he says nobody stays good.
Nope, nobody stays good. Yeah, nobody stays good.
And again, this is one of those moments where I'm like, "F you, Zack Snyder."
Yeah, and I'm not even a huge Superman guy, but when I heard that line, I was like, no.
Right?
Like, yeah, I was like, no. Ugh, and so it's like, what I would have liked is if there had been some sort of situation, even if Lex set it up, if there was some sort of problem and Batman and Superman didn't trust each other and were both trying to solve it, but thought the other person was going about it the wrong way, so they ended up squaring off against each other for what they both thought was right.
Right.
And then they end up like learning from each other. In fact, on the second viewing, and maybe this, I said this to my brother. I was like, I think this is what the movie's about. And he's like, I didn't see that. But okay. I felt like it might have been in there. So you start the movie off with Batman, who is just become like a total reckless, vigilante guy, and he's taking bad guys and he's branding them with his little batarang things. And
that was a little much for me, I thought.
Oh yeah, well, the whole scene with all the girls being sex trafficked at the beginning, I was like, okay, right. Here we are. So anyway, Batman brands a guy, and if you put the brand on someone and they go to jail, that is a death sentence, and Batman knows this. So he's basically like, you're going to get torn apart alive in jail. Like, here you go.
Yeah, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. It's like that.
I'm going to let everyone else kill you.
Yeah.
And so Alfred goes, "So is this what we're doing now?" And Batman's like, "Oh, come on, Alfred. We were always criminals, right?" So I'm like, okay.
Right.
Like, so he's been in the game for 20 years, right? He's let the darkness consume him a little too much. Sure. I'm willing to go with this. Right?
Sure, totally. I agree.
He's about to meet the guy who feels differently with the same goals. That's what I thought this movie was going to be. Then it ends up, the fight between them is basically over, Superman just not wanting his mom to die when he could just say, "Hey, Batman, we can like talk about this later, but they're going to kill my mother. Can you help me?" You know what I mean? Like it was like a Three's Company misunderstanding. They're fighting.
That's, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. You expect Mr. Roper to come running up.
Like, no. You're both your mom's names are Martha. Don't you see?
Mr. Furley, damn it.
Well, sorry. We'll get back to that. That's not my point. We'll get back to that. So I wanted Batman consumed by the darkness. Now he's terrible and hurts people, and he's gotten too consumed with this stuff. And then he meets Superman, and they sort of learn from each other. And then, I'm gonna have to get into spoilers here. We are in spoilers, but Batman or Superman gets killed at the end. And at the funeral for Superman, Batman goes, "I failed him in life,
yes,
but I won't fail him in death."
Yes.
His pal of all of 10 minutes.
That's right.
So, but I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, I want it to mean that he realizes he was going about it the wrong way for too long. And now he sort of sees the optimism that Superman had, or, the integrity. And he's like, I want to go back to, like, having like a compass, a code.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted this movie to be. And that's why I think it let me down.
Well, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I mean, but and this goes to just this like unending cloak of grimness that they have to wrap Superman up in. And to me, it just betrays such a misreading of what the character should represent, which is, what you just said. And it's, I mean, we talked about this in the trailer. Martha Kent is like, be their monument, be their angel, or don't, you don't owe this planet a thing. That's what she says, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we kind of owe the planet a few things, like kind of like alive because of the planet, and you have the powers because of the planet, and I mean, and it's such a bizarre thing to put in the mouth of that character, because all it does is double down on the same sort of like reticence that we saw with Jonathan Kent, and then the whole Silence of the Horses spiel that he has in this movie too,
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just the grimness it's not about overcoming the grimness. It's about the grimness overcoming you. And I'm like, that's a horrible message.
Right.
Right. And did we need a movie where Martha Kent is gagged and she has horror written on her forehead? Did that need to exist in a film?
Right. Did it say horror or did it say witch?
Fine. Witch. Sorry. That's
whatever. Yeah.
Same difference, Yeah. Fair. Yeah. That's, I mean, my point is, I mean, here was my issue, because I gave this movie a really bad review. I gave it a D, and the reason I did that was because, remember, this movie does not exist in a vacuum. This is the first step, or second step, I guess, in this shared universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bottom line for me, the fundamental test that it fails is it does not make this a universe I want to revisit again and again.
Right.
It makes it a fundamentally unpleasant place. And I was thinking about this because about a year ago we talked about Age of Ultron, right? Which, we were both kind of like, whatever, right? That was basically our reaction to that. But the difference with the Age of Ultron is when that movie ends, you're like, all right, well, let's see what they do in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to coming back and seeing. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas this, I'm like, this is just a horrible place. This is like when I was a kid, I used to read comics and it would be like, this is an alternate universe story where everything is horrible. And, the Luthors raised Superman and now it's just a nightmare dystopia. And then it ends and you're like, oh, thank God I have like the regular version to get back to. Well, this felt like that.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I was telling someone at work again about what I thought it could be or should be. This isn't me like being hopeful or like what Brian Hall wants. I mean, this is stuff I've read in the comics before. Like, I'm not making this up, what I felt like this movie could or should be. And when I was explaining what I was sort of hoping for, again, competing ideologies for the same, end game, they're like, oh, so you're probably going to enjoy Captain America a lot more. Civil War. And I was like, you're probably right. Because it's like that trailer alone had more emotion and more. I mean, obviously they have a ton more films to back up.
Well, but that's the thing, right? It's about putting the cart before the horse. Because okay, you look at the Captain America Civil War trailer. Sorry, Tony, he's my friend. So was I.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, yeah.
It hits you, right? Because why? We've seen that friendship. We've experienced that friendship.
Right.
Whereas this film is like a greatest hits package where Zack Snyder is like, oh, I want to do my Dark Knight Returns and I want to do Doomsday, and and it's all these pieces without the context.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't mean anything. I mean, think about this. The Dark Knight Returns is one of the greatest stories, comic stories ever. Everyone, that's like, if you talk about a mainstream comic, you're like, here, read this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that story is effective, it culminates in this fight between Batman and Superman, is because in narrative terms, that's after decades of friendship, which we're aware of. And so the specific reasons for the clash are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, it's like, oh, let's appropriate that iconography without understanding the meaning behind it.
Right.
Oh, let's do Doomsday. Well, Doomsday, the Doomsday storyline, it came at a different place, and the stakes were different. Here, it's like Doomsday shows up and starts destroying a few things. I'm glad Anderson Cooper's there to tell us that Metropolis is now deserted.
That was really funny.
That was like Zack Snyder being like, hey, F all of you people who complain about here. You still upset about that, you know?
Yeah, that was really funny.
But again, it's not understanding. Like, I remember reading the Death of Superman storyline, right, in the comics, and the beauty of that story is, first of all, it played out. It was like back then. This is like early '90s. The Superman comics were weekly, so we had the battle between Superman and Doomsday play out over 5 weeks as they battled across the country. Right. And so Metropolis is like the last stand. And all the other heroes have been defeated. So it's down to just Superman and Batman. Superman and Doomsday. Batman's not even in it at that point. I mean, it's, you know, and we've seen this trail of destruction. So we realize how important the stakes are. We don't get that sense here. Because it's the cave troll from Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
And he jumps from one abandoned area to another abandoned area where there's a big fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what was Lex's plan? I mean, if he was really trying to protect Metropolis or the Earth or whatever, which again, probably not. He's probably trying to make a profit. But what did he expect to happen with that thing? You know what I mean? I mean, did he think they were it would just kill Batman and Superman? Great. Then what?
Right.
You get this thing running around your city. I don't know.
It's, you know, you can't, you know what it reminded me of in a lot of ways was Daredevil, the Daredevil 2003 movie. Where that's what Mark Steven Johnson did with that, where he's like, oh, I like this character and I like this moment. And, you know, and he just kind of tosses them all in, but there's no context and there's no history and there's nothing to make those moments really stick out and have emotional weight.
Right.
And part of that is just, I mean, you got to have patience, you know?
Yeah.
I think DC they're so desperate. Warner Brothers so desperate to get, you know, to strap booster rockets on these things because they're behind the 8 ball because Marvel's already lapped them.
Right.
So there's this rush to the finish line. But you know, a guy I know online, his name is Ryan Daly, and he actually hosts a couple podcasts. He said something really interesting, which I think is applicable here. He says, after he directed Watchmen in 2009, Zack Snyder said the other comic he wanted to adapt was Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. And Dawn of Justice certainly borrows heavily from The Dark Knight Returns, with the death of Superman and a bit of Crisis on Infinite Earths thrown in. And he says, I don't like to criticize anyone's fandom or geekdom. So I'm not going to say Zack Snyder is not the comic geek people say he is. But when you claim the two comics you want to adapt to film just so happen to be the most popular, famous, and mainstream comic books ever published, and again with Death of Superman thrown in, well, I liken it to asking Snyder, if you could have dinner with any two people from history, who would you pick? And Snyder picks Abraham Lincoln and William Shakespeare. Nothing wrong with his answer, but I would like to know how long he thought about the question. And that's what it feels like to me too. It's like, oh, you know, I'm such a fan because we got to do, and it's like, well, there's more to these characters than these stories.
Right.
And these stories don't exist in isolation.
Yeah. And I can hear certain people listening right now thinking, dude, it's just a comic book movie.
Sure.
And you know what? You're not wrong.
I don't dispute that. I don't dispute that at all.
You're not wrong. And I think, though, I would say, because I've talked to people that like this movie, and that's totally cool. Like, I will probably stop on it when it's on TBS someday and whatnot. But
there
like,
you go. It passed that test.
It can be frustrating knowing what a movie could be.
Sure.
And you could do that to any movie ever made, certainly. But we're talking about what's come before with these characters specifically. Like, there has been a bar that's been set, and it's hard, I think, for us when this movie doesn't reach that bar,
Yeah.
or it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's aiming for something completely different when we know what we feel like it could be.
Well, and with that in mind, I mean, let's shift the conversation just slightly, because I did want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, this movie got hammered by the critics,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the last time I've seen this. I mean, I've been a professional critic for a little while now, and obviously there are films that come out that do get hammered by critics. But what we saw here was this digging in, where people are like, "F the critics." This is about the fans, and I've never seen anything like. Actually, that's not true. The last time I saw something like this was when I wrote a mixed review about The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight Rises, by the way, a movie I gave a B- to, so it's not like I peed all over it.
Right.
But it's the same exact thing, where it's this reflexive, like, hard to explain, but I do you know what I'm talking about? Just we saw this narrative play out over the past 4 days, where it's like, it's not about the critics, it's about the fans, and this and that. And I'm kind of like, well, it's, I don't know what it's at right now, but I mean, last I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, it had something like 30%. I mean, when you have that many reviews that are mixed to negative, I mean, isn't there? This isn't evidence of some grand conspiracy. So, I mean, isn't that indicative of a broader problem?
But you know what's interesting is I thought I read it got an A- cinema score.
No, it got a B cinema score.
Oh, did it?
See, which and folks,
that actually kind of makes sense then, huh?
Well, this is so
A's and
so
get
this,
your C's.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, I think for those of you who are listening who don't know, Cinema Score is the polling that they do for opening night audiences. About what grade they would give the movie, right? And generally speaking, if you have a cinema score that's less than an A, that's problematic, right? And the reason being that if it's an opening night crowd, these are the diehards. So if they're giving it less than an A, that's at least, you know, I mean, it's not like the sky is falling, but that's certainly something that if you're Warner Brothers, you're looking at that and you're like, you know, your spidey sense is tingling, or whatever the DC equivalent of that is. Right? I mean, am I wrong about that?
No, yeah, you're right.
You know, so the thing is that this thing opened to $166 million, which is I mean, look, they got their opening weekend, they got their record, no doubt about it. But I think the real story is going to be next weekend.
Right.
Because, and granted, I'm a critic, so I'm the bad guy in this whole thing. but I mean, I think that reviews do have a corollary eventually. I mean, I don't think there's, you know, people say, oh, these movies are critic proof. I don't think that's necessarily true. Because I think critics can make a good movie do better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look at Deadpool. Deadpool, $350 million. I think that it was the word of mouth was positive, and the critical notices were what got it to that level. Now, can you see a scenario where Batman v Superman makes less than Deadpool?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Right? Because that would be an embarrassment, I would think, if you're Warner Brothers, and they'll gussy it up and try to put the best face on it. But you know, depending on what the drop is like, I could easily see that happening. Yeah,
but you know, it's tough too. I mean, you can't please everybody.
Sure.
You know, so I mean, it's really, I don't know where you go from here. Like, what sort of course corrections do you make? You know, because I mean, obviously, whether people say you loved it, that's great. But like enough people and enough noise has been made against it. So obviously you need to do a little tweaking. And I wonder what that is. I mean, I guess, well, no. Yeah, there's 2 Justice League movies coming next from Zack Snyder. So we're getting 2 more of this.
Well, this is the problem, right? Is that you said this before, where one of the concerns that you had about this film, Batman v Superman, you said, you know, I already know what it's going to look like.
Right.
And I would say that statement was borne out by the film, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there's no visual surprises. We know Zack Snyder's storytelling approach, and like it or dislike, I'm not even getting into that. I mean, we know what Justice League Part 1 is going to look like.
Absolutely. I know what part 2 is going to look like.
Right. If he
we
does
know
it,
what
yeah.
it's going to be. Yeah.
Assuming he does both parts. And that's my point is I'm kind of like, well, if it's more of this, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Wonder Woman film because I liked, like we talked about, I liked Gal Gadot, and I'm curious what it'll be like. It'll be something different. I'm interested in James Wan's Aquaman film because I'm curious what that'll look like. Although I have to say, the cameos that they wove in were all kind of silly, in my opinion. For the various,
they weren't the worst thing in the world, but they
just felt
certainly
goofy
weren't.
to me.
Yeah, they felt a little goofy.
Like
Someone, I can't take credit for this, but they pointed out that it's funny that it seems like Lex came up with their logos.
Yeah, and their names apparently, right?
Yeah. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, there's Joe Morton in there, like, just why they're like, hey, he created Skynet, so he created this other cyborg too, I guess. I
did like that? Oh, good. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but I mean, none of those little snippets were deal breakers, but they definitely took me out of the film because they felt a little like, remember in Amazing Spider-Man 2, how that's something we talked about, you can see the seams of like the universe building. It felt like that to me.
Yeah, definitely shoehorned. It was like in the middle of the fight, wasn't it? And then it's like,
yeah,
let's get to Wonder Woman looking at her computer.
Oh, and by the way, actually, somewhat related to this, there's that dream sequence in the middle.
Yeah.
Which I felt like you could have just chopped that whole thing out of the film and it wouldn't have affected anything. How did that hold up in the second view? I'm curious about that.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's just Batman waiting for something to be decrypted. Yeah, nothing really changed. It just, it does, I mean, show you, it illustrates his fears come to life, right? I mean, you see like the Superman soldiers and what could possibly be the future if Superman is given all the free reign to do whatever he wants. I mean, is it necessarily? Not necessarily, but like it didn't bother me.
Sure.
I mean, it gets a little confusing for me who doesn't know a ton about the comics, because then all of a sudden you have these weird winged creatures flying around.
Yeah, so those are called parademons, and they're tied in with the character called Darkseid,
right,
who one presumes is being set up. We see Darkseid's symbol, which is the Omega symbol, and we see that in that's meant to be like post-apocalyptic Earth or something. This is the problem. I mean, it's just concentrate on this movie.
Yeah, it is funny though, because when I watched it the first time, I mean, you have to assume it's a dream, but at the same time, it's like a really cool, long, drawn out, choreographed fight sequence,
which is cool,
and it was very cool. But then the second time I saw it, I thought it was funny that he gave himself in his dream such an awesome, elaborate, choreographed fight sequence. I don't know, it just seemed funny to me.
Well, but I mean, is he seeing the future? Maybe this is
sure.
Maybe this is something it's almost there's no point criticizing because
no, I'm not criticizing it.
I'm just kind of like, I truly believe that in a film like this, less is more. And if it's 2.5 hours long, you know what, make some more hard choices.
Sure.
Because in terms of this story, utterly unnecessary. And the truth is, your job is to make this story compelling enough where we'll jump on for follow-ons.
Yeah. Well, I'll say again, though, I didn't mind it because especially seeing the soldiers with the Superman emblem on their arm, helped me to understand more of what Wayne thinks could be down the line.
Sure.
That was all right. But I was going to say, I really loved the Batmobile.
Yes,
that whole chase sequence was a very cool sequence.
I liked that, and I liked the Batcave also. By the way,
yeah,
it's
same.
Different. By the way, here the bat signal is on the grounds of Wayne Manor.
I believe you. I'm just trying to recall it in my mind.
Because Batman shines the light, and that's when Superman shows up.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, are there any secret identities in this universe at all? Like,
oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And you realize we haven't even talked about how the magic word is Martha. The safe word is Martha.
Yeah. So you got Well, go ahead. Yeah, please.
No, please. You tell the tale.
Well, you've got Lex Luthor like to Superman. Your mom is going to die if you don't kill Batman, and Batman is like, I'm going to kill Superman. So Batman, thinking he's all crafty, he's got this crazy suit and he's got this kryptonite infused gas that can weaken Superman, so he can fight him in the suit. And instead of, Clark, or I don't know why I keep calling him Clark and Superman back and forth. But anyway, let's just call him Superman. Superman shows up and he's like, now hold on a second. And then Batman sets off all his traps and whatnot. And Superman's like, you know what? Screw this. Like, and then he just starts fighting Batman, even though, the clock is ticking on his mother. And so they fight and they fight and they fight and they fight. And then eventually it comes to the point where Batman is about to kill Superman. And so Superman's like, no, wait, like, just don't let Martha die.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would say if my mom was in trouble. I'd be like, Connie, save Connie. Not my mom. I would say save Connie. But, it's neither here nor there. And so Batman is like, what? Why did you say Martha?
Yeah.
And Superman's like, just save Martha. That's all. And Batman's like, Martha, why did you say Hold on. Why did you say Martha? I heard you say Martha. So what I'm wondering is, and then all of a sudden Lois Lane runs in. It's like, it's the name of his mother. And I was like, how did you hear their conversation?
But by the way, we'll come back to that in just a second. Bear in mind, so Lois is in the Daily Planet, and she's like, I need to go to Gotham.
Yes.
And Harry's like, no, we can't afford that. And she's like, it's not for a story. And he's like, okay, go then. And I'm like, what?
Oh, well then. What's the exact opposite sense? Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
by the way-
literally, people were
Okay,
laughing in the theater. When the Martha thing happened, people were laughing in the theater.
Again, but that's what sucks. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like,
No, it's
it
not.
totally should be a great thing. It just wasn't executed as best it could
Get
be.
what they're trying to do,
Yes.
but it's so club-footed, it doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right? And the idea that that's the thing that makes them friends.
Well,
Your
and
mom's
that's it.
named Martha? My mom's named Martha. And by the way, in case we're not absolutely clear about what Bruce Wayne's mom's name is, they like really hit you over the head with it about 18 times.
They do. When they show the Wayne's graves, it's completely with Martha's grave in frame, and
Well,
his
and in the
dad's frame,
beginning,
like,
right,
out of focus.
when they're shot, and what's his name? The comedian who plays Thomas Wayne. What's the guy's name? He was the comedian in Watchmen. He's like, Martha.
Yeah.
And literally at that moment, I was like, that's kind of an interesting. Like, I didn't realize that would be like the Rosetta Stone for the whole movie.
I didn't either, because I thought he was going to say Bruce, and I thought it was weird that he said Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Batman rescues Martha Kent. Sorry, I'm getting him confused. And he, by the way, I'm pretty sure he murders everybody in the warehouse that she's being
Totally
held.
murders them. He takes arms and bends them backwards. Like he maims these people.
Yeah, and then he lights a dude on fire.
Yeah. Which honestly, that fight was pretty awesome though.
The fight scene itself was great.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, we said this before in reference to the trailer. Probably the truest depiction of Batman we've ever seen in terms of just being in a force of nature.
Yeah.
And you could actually see what he was doing, unlike some of the stuff in the Nolan movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But at that point, he's like, "Oh, I'm a friend of your son." It's like, really? How long have you guys been friends? Like a minute, like a minute and a half. You're being kind of a tool to him this entire time.
I know, and they're not friends.
Right?
Like they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So moving on to the conclusion. This sums up to me why I feel like this is Warner Brothers basically, taking a steamer on Superman. We end this film, which is the first confrontation between Superman and his archenemy Lex Luthor. And we end this film by Batman being Lex Luthor's archenemy.
Yeah.
So Lex Luthor goes to jail. Why? We don't know, because they cut that kind of an important scene out, which shows him being captured for having done this, having created Doomsday and everything else. And then Batman shows up in his prison, and Batman gives Lex Luthor the Superman speech where he's like, "What I'll be watching you."
Mm-hmm.
Now, bear in mind, Brian, this is not the tail end of a years-long rivalry between Superman and Lex Luthor, and now that Superman has fallen, Batman will pick up the slack. No, Superman and Lex have not had a chance to become arch enemies.
No.
So Batman just went ahead and swooped up that too.
That's really funny.
Right?
Yeah. And
so I was very disappointed in this movie, Brian. That's all I'm saying.
What did change Batman's mind? I mean, that Superman sacrificed himself, but Superman's been sacrificing himself for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty freaking obvious that that's what he does with his spare time is save people. So, what changed Batman's mind?
Well, yeah, I don't know. But you know what's funny about that, by the way? The sacrifice, we have... they're like, oh, we need so they're fighting, right? Superman and Batman are fighting, but then they stop fighting, and then they go, and Lois Lane is like, I need to get rid of this kryptonite spear, so she throws it in the water for some reason, we don't know why. And then far away, they're fighting Doomsday, and Batman's like, oh, we need the kryptonite spear. Now Lois is back at Wayne Manor, and she jumps into the water. Did she hear them say this?
Oh, I don't remember that.
So she throws it into the water for no reason, and then why does she throw it in? So that she can retrieve it, because we need to add one extra level of stakes.
I wish I could see this again. I don't recall. I remember,
do you really wish you could see this again?
Happening? Well, I'm just saying, I don't. Oh, that's funny. I did think it was funny that she threw it in the water just so she could go get it, but
yeah,
as a storytelling device. I mean, but did you expect Aquaman to show up and grab the kryptonite thing in the water?
I didn't, because I figured that cameo was probably it.
Yeah, for some reason, I was just getting this feeling like they were showing these shots of the deep blue sea.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if Aquaman's going to grab it and bring it up. And
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, but it's funny because I talked to a bunch of people, and a lot of people thought that was going to happen.
I thought that they were going to kill off Lois Lane. And I thought that, not that I would have liked that, but I thought that would have been an interesting way to go where, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just, the whole thing is such a mess. It's really I can't even tell you how disappointed I am in this, because it's just, it's disappointing just as a film, because I think it's just a sloppy movie. But beyond even that, it's just, again, to me, it points the way to a very sloppy universe that they're creating.
Right.
And say what you want about, and we've waited this long to make the Marvel comparison. Even the not good Marvel Studios movies fall within a certain range.
Sure.
And at the end of any of those, you're never like, oh God, I don't like this universe. You're just like, I didn't like this chapter of the story.
That's what it is. It's like you're willing to forgive a lesser film because of what's come before it.
Yeah.
Right. They've earned a couple missteps.
Yeah.
But this feels a little too early to be wobbly.
Wobbly. That's the word. That really is. Batman v Superman, the wobble of justice.
So, if I was to sum it up, I would say this is a decent C+ action movie. But that's not what I want for Batman and Superman.
And I would say it's a very indecent D movie, but it's also not what I want. So either way, so Brian, you and I are basically in agreement on this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I think I'm a little more, I'm able to see it from another angle and go okay, I see where it's entertaining, but I won't let go of the fact that I'm disappointed in what it isn't.
Sure.
So,
well, those of you who are expecting this episode to be Brian v. Zaki, it didn't happen. But we'll see what happens next
Yeah.
with the next one. So yeah, we've got the Suicide Squad coming later this year, and then I think Wonder Woman. They've already finished filming. I think that's coming out a year from now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they
They
start
had the
shooting.
Suicide. Oh, sorry.
Well, they start shooting Justice League in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I was
there's
they
no
had the
fixing
Suicide
that at this
Squad
point.
trailer before the movie,
Oh, did they? Which makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
which makes sense. And I was like, man, that movie, I don't know. I just think that the end result, who knows? But like that trailer itself just has so much personality,
Yes.
and I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm
Well,
hoping.
it to me, the Suicide Squad trailer, maybe I've said this on the show, I can't remember, but it looks like it could be kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks much darker, obviously, but in the same, like, kind of looking at the quirky part of this universe.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's kind of, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, it's kind of funny because you have Dawn of the Dead, right? The 2004 Dawn of the Dead, which is written by James Gunn,
Mhm.
directed by Zack
Mm.
Snyder. So it's like this weird, this one nexus point,
right.
you know?
That's kind of funny.
And this is the thing. I mean, I'm not a basher of Zack Snyder. I've defended Watchmen. I like Dawn of the Dead. I legitimately like Dawn
same.
of the Dead. But I mean, I'm telling you, man, after this movie, I'm like, you know what? I don't want any more I don't want Zack Snyder doing any more of these.
If he wants to like make some action tone poem sort of beautiful violent movies, go for it. But like if it's going to involve characters that I really want to care about and get invested in and dig deep into, then that's not something I want him to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that almost sounds like an insult, and I really don't mean it that way. Like certain people have certain strengths, and he certainly has his, right?
He has a very particular set of skills.
Yeah, and I think those would suit certain stories very well, and I hope he sticks to those,
Well, there we go. So, Zack Snyder, it's not personal. I think that's a good place to wrap things up. What do you say, Brian?
Yeah. This was fun.
We went about half an hour longer than we intended to in this conversation, but we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. We saw it coming.
We did. Yeah, we had a sense. Yeah. Brian, I've been looking forward to this conversation with you for a week, and you did not disappoint. So
Good. Ditto. Me too.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it also.
Well, what other projects do you have in the hopper? Anything you want to hype up?
I have a new Bob's Burgers comic coming out first week of April. I'm not sure the exact date, but I'm excited about it. It's a 2-parter, and the Belchers get sucked into a video game, so I get to throw in all my little 8-bit jokes.
Nice. There we go.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Anything else, Brian?
That's it.
Well, as for me, I'm at my blog, ZackisCorner.com. That's ZAKIS Corner. That's also my Twitter handle, where you can see me waxing about all kinds of stuff, 140 characters at a time. You can also find my reviews at my site and also at the Huffington Post, where my movie reviews can be seen, and also this show. This show is there, and the Nostalgia Theater show. I got a fun one coming up next week. I talked to John Kenneth Muir. He's the author of the Encyclopedia of Superheroes on Film and Television, and we talked about the history of Batman on screen. So we talked about the movie serials and the TV show, and of course the 1980s and 90s films. And we also kind of got into more general conversation about superheroes on screen. And I think it'll be a nice little supplement to this chat. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. That's Nostalgia Theater for next week. But with
Very
that,
cool.
I think you'll dig it too, Brian. With that wraps up this episode of the show. This was episode 91. The countdown is on to episode 100, Brian.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
We should plan something big. I don't know what, but
We'll rent out Carnegie Hall.
there we go. Well, I don't know what we'll do there, but
Yeah.
we'll do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
We'll get a bounce
coming-
house.
Well, and I mean, from now through like August, we're gonna have a bunch of big stuff. I mean, we're in 2 episodes. We'll be talking about Captain America: Civil War, and summer movie season is almost here. It's crazy how quickly it gets here. But I'm looking forward to that conversation, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again in 2 weeks. Hopefully, you all will tune in and listen. This has been the Movie Film Show. On behalf of Brian Hall, I'm Zaki Hassan. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy